Thank you very much, Johanna, for the warm welcome and the introduction. My colleagues and I are very excited to join the webinar today and provide insights on what the Innovation Safari was all about. To start off, we think it's important to give a little bit of a background on how it was actually possible for us to host the Innovation Safari here at the country office in Tanzania. And this is because around 2017, WFP country office in Tanzania added innovation as part of its strategic objectives. And from there, we were able to launch the very first WFP Field Innovation Hub, which was designed to complement the Global Innovation Accelerator in Munich. And it has a dedicated team of innovators that work on implementing some of innovation activities here in Tanzania. This team, by leveraging its capabilities, it's what really enabled us to take the idea of the Innovation Safari into a reality. We can also provide a quick overview of what the Innovation Hub in Tanzania has done so far. And to date, we were able to run around 16 innovation projects, and some of them are big projects such as XPRIZE, where we partnered with UNESCO, and some are more smaller innovation sprints, which are both local and international. We also run a number of boot camps in collaboration with the Global Accelerator, but we've also really focused on building the local capacity by working with the Tanzania innovation ecosystem and really engaging with them to seek out effective solutions that can move the needle towards zero hunger. You will also notice that during the actual safari, we really collaborated with the local innovation ecosystem to make the journey a success.
All right. So what was the safari all about? A safari, in a nutshell, it was a 6 weeks training where we had every week a 4-hour training slot where about 20 participants of 13 different UN agencies participated. It was focused indeed on innovation, and we managed to develop 5 novel ideas during the safari. And most importantly, I would say, we really managed to spread innovation mindset here across the different agencies. And for us as WFP, it was a pleasure to actually share some of our innovation capacity here across the UN family in Tanzania. So let us tell us a little bit more about the actual safari and how it all came about. It all started off back in April, where the first, I believe, interagency innovation bootcamp at, let's say, global level was held at the WFP Innovation Accelerator in Munich. And this is also where then Johanna and me have met for the first time. And we started to talk about why are such things actually mostly happening at global level? And shouldn't we find a way how we can bring actually innovation boot camps and innovation trainings and innovation work in an interagency manner closer to the country levels where the impact that we create as UN entities actually resides. And so after we had born the idea, we very swiftly moved to a rapid concept notes co-design process. And that's then also when we actually came up with the idea to do, we called it a slow-mo boot camp at the time, because at first we thought we were going to organize one intensive week, but then we figured this is something actually quite new at country level, and it's probably a lower entry barrier if we had a part-time training, because it would be easier for the different entities to commit their staff to participate. And then once we have written up this concept note, we consulted the residence coordinator's office here in Tanzania, and they were actually quite enthusiastic and very welcoming to the idea. And then if you want to repeat something like this, we also give here a little bit of technical details. We then went to the program management team at the country, the so-called PMT, for sign-off. And then we also involved the PMT, which is basically all the different heads of programs of the different UN entities, to fill in a survey, because we felt that if we want to do this innovation training, we should try to work on problems that are really relevant across agencies in the country. And this is how we did it, that we did the survey for all the different heads of programs. Once we had that established, we had actually also all the different heads of programs nominate and different candidates. And we were very happy that we got candidates from 13 different agencies. And then we could move ahead with the next step, because when we co-designed the concept of the safari, we figured it would be very nice if we actually also made it even more inclusive and not only do it interagency or inter-entities, but if we also found a way how we could involve the local innovation ecosystem. And we did that in two ways. On the one hand, we conducted the safari at different innovation hubs. So we were not sitting most of the time at UN offices, but we were really going out there, seeing where innovation is taking place in Tanzania. And we recruited team and co-facilitators from the innovation ecosystem. So to also get fresh views and additional insights into our training. Yeah, then we went ahead, booked the hubs, and we started the safari a few months later, already in October 2019. What was very important is when we positioned the safari is what would we promise? What are the outcomes that we would, broadcast and promote in order to convince the country leadership team here to allow us to do the safari? And what we said, it's three things. On the one hand, it's really to connect. There are many innovative minds in all the different entities here, but we don't know of each other. And it's a big value in itself if we actually get to know each other, that we can find each other for future possible joint programming. Secondly, it was really to learn about innovation methodologies, to learn about cutting edge innovation approaches, and to also develop a little bit of a common language about innovation. And then only thirdly, and it was very important on how we positioned the safari, only thirdly, it is about the real outcomes of the actual solutions that we are developing. Because while I believe that all the solutions that came out of the safari are actually great new ideas and concepts, we didn't want to position the safari in a way that we're locked in creating the most valuable solutions, but that we wanted to really give the participants the space to focus on connecting, learning, and experimenting and experiencing innovation methodologies. So what are actually the topics, just to give you a little bit of a flavor that we have focused on, and Desire will briefly take us through that.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So as Christof mentioned earlier, in order to come up with these topics, we had rolled out a survey across the UN in Tanzania. And really the survey was based on UNDAP, which is the United Nations Development Assistance Plan. And this plan is shared across all the UN entities in Tanzania. And then based on this survey, we're able to come up with a number of challenges or areas that we wanted to look at. And together with the participants and the facilitators, we identified 5 key areas that we wanted to work on. So the first one was, how might we better reach most vulnerable beneficiaries through new media and communication strategies? The second one, we also wanted to look at how we can change, how we can work with movers and shakers to drive SDG impact for us in Tanzania. We also wanted to establish sustainable energy solutions and reverse environmental regression for refugees, but also we wanted to take advantage of some of the saving groups that are available here in Tanzania and come up with innovative solutions that can support women and children. And lastly, we also looked at how we can use innovation to come up with feedback mechanism for refugees and also use it as an M&E platform. So, in order to roll out the innovation safari sessions, we came up with very specific sections or phases that we went through. So the first one was the team ideation. This was a full-day workshop, and during this workshop, we brought together the participants from all the other entities together with the external facilitators, and we spent the day really looking at all the areas that were identified during the survey. We grouped each other into 6 teams, and each team was able to now really ideate around the area of focus that they have selected. And then we rolled out the 6 slow-mo bootcamp sessions. The first session was really user research, and most of this is based on the innovation, the most of these we use the design thinking model. So we use business models, we used prototyping, pitching, sprint, and finally a wrap up. Each session we spent about 4 hours with we spent about a very short session that was 4 weeks, and then we spent 4 hours with the team. From our, we ensured that each team was able to really get time to work together with the group, and then have a short session at the end to really debrief and see how we worked together through the day. And then finally, we had the One UN Innovation Night. This night was then when all the teams were able to present back what were the innovative solutions that they came up with. So we formulated it as a pitch night, and each team got an opportunity to present to the UN heads, but also we were able to present to some of the development partners and ecosystem partners that joined us during the innovation night.
Thank you, Desire. And so what are the outcomes of this safari? First of all, our participants apparently loved it. We asked for the Net Promoter Score. That is basically the question, would you recommend to one of your colleagues to also join in an innovation safari? And all participants that responded gave us actually a 9 or a 10 score, which we're very happy with. So an NPS of actually, we must have done something right. People liked it. At this point in time, we have 2 projects that are actually going forward, which is also great news, because at the safari we didn't assure next steps. We had hoped that this would happen, and it indeed happened for 2 projects that the project leads continue to pitch and try to take it forward with their own energy. Also, it was really great to position innovation as a topic for the One UN. So at this One UN Innovation Night that we've held at the end of the safari, it was actually really an amazing spirit. We had about 150 people in the room from development partners, from different embassies, from the innovation ecosystem, and of course a lot of different people from the United Nations. And that was, to me, actually quite a unique evening, because if you looked at the smiles in people's faces, and if you looked at the ambition to look forward and see how we can really improve our impact to achieve the SDGs, I think we quite achieved that during that evening. And there was also a beautiful side effect. We had participants of 13 agencies, but we're 23 agencies here in Tanzania. And the country management team at some point really pointed out that we should also find a more structural way that innovators continue to find each other. And so we were tasked to create an innovation network of innovation focal points between the entities here in Tanzania. We have done that, and I think now time will tell how we're going to make best use of it. And then lastly, we want to have a look at the learning. So what did we really take away from this innovation safari? And Paul, as a participant, is going to tell us actually how it was, what went well, and what we might be able to do better in the future.
Thank you, Christof. As one of the participants, we learned quite a lot. And one of the valuable skills we learned is just to be able to bring up these ideas, refine these ideas, to be able to test out these ideas there in the field. And it ended up in a solution that we worked out there in the field. And we also were able to make connections across the 13 different agencies that were there. And the innovations in that sense were very rich, I guess, based on the expertise and on the different experiences brought about by the 13 different agencies. The other thing that I really liked is the idea of group facilitators. Each group had facilitators assigned to them, and these were people who were pushing us to be able to respect these deadlines, to be able to go out there and test these ideas, to be able to join, to do more research into these kind of topics. And that really helped us in our 4-week journey. And then finally, we had a mindset shift towards innovation. I think at the end of the day, there was a real appreciation that these models do really work in terms of helping us think innovation. How do we look at the things we were looking at in a very different, or from a very different perspective? Just just going on a journey on a free flow and just building an idea on top of the other just kept, resulted in things that were fundamentally different from the original ideas we had. There may be things that may also probably be improved, or other things we noted, and one of it is scheduling conflicts. These again are busy people, and naturally going over a 4-week period, it was not always easy to get 100% attendance by all the people, all the agencies. So this was one. Secondly, we also had, how do we then update each other when we miss some of these sessions? So we needed clear modalities, and probably some of those modalities were left up to the groups to be able to design themselves. So of course the use was different for different groups. And finally, we needed more actual user interaction between the different agencies or between the different players that were there. Yeah, on the one hand, of course, there's the problem of scheduling conflicts, but on the other hand, we do need this interaction more, and because innovation really is more about the interaction. It comes out from all the discussions that we bring about, rather than any particular perspective that we get from an individual agency or person.
Thank you very much, Paul. And I think that was almost it then from our side with the overall introduction to the Tanzania Innovation Safari. Maybe one or two closing thoughts about next steps. Indeed, we prototyped this innovation safari here, and in best innovation language, I would say we actually even bootstrapped it because comparatively little budget actually went into it to make it all happen. And so now that we have the learnings and that we actually could, I think, create quite a lot of value with the first safari, we're considering how to redesign it, how to maybe compress it, how to improve some of the modules of the actual training program. And we hope that at some point later in early 2020, we could run somewhere a second iteration of the safari. And then as soon as we have reached a point where we believe it's actually stable and potentially scalable, we would be very pleased to be able to come back here or to other platforms to share it with all of you if this was something to be worth to be rolled out on an even broader scale. So thank you very much for your attention, and now I'm handing back over to you, Johanna.